The first thing we need to do before we start taking photos is to find a suitable place that will realistically be believable that the lighting scene can actually occur there. It's hard to believe someone will accept that we will have a bright light here, which shines from behind, our natural sunshine, and at the same time, we add another source of bright light from the front. And yet, we stand in the shade the whole time. This situation simply cannot happen in nature. So, we can certainly photograph it and light it up, but the human brain will look at that photograph and still think that something about it doesn't fit. And it's exactly that the scene isn't believable. So we have a scene where the light comes from the back, hits the tree, and Jane is subtly illuminated from behind. What does this imply for us? From the front side, if I want to light up the face, I have to use a soft light source, because we can pretend that it bounced off some shop window or some building. And as a result, that light, when it reflects, becomes a bit softer. We know that in order to have a soft light source, we need to use a softbox. We will attach a softbox modifier to our external flash, or alternatively any other octabox. Basically anything that will soften our light source a bit. This way, it will have softer shadows and a larger light source that simulates the reflected light falling on our model. The huge advantage in using flash over reflective panels is just that there is one quick flash. This means that the model won't be squinting at us while she's looking at the camera. Today, we are a bit under a cloud, so we won't be using any extremely short exposure times, at least I assume. But we'll see what we end up with in the end. So let's set up the camera step by step. First, we turn off the flash and set the camera without the flash. We already know that exposure time affects the entire photo, but it does not affect the illuminated part. So first, I set my exposure without flash, and I don't care at all whether Jane is lit or not. A beautiful portrait came out at ISO 100/1/60th of a second and aperture f4. Yes, it's a slightly larger depth of field, but the background is beautifully exposed, I even dare to say, slightly underexposed. So, we can now open the aperture a bit more to get more light from the background. And at the same time, we can turn on our external flash, which we will control remotely, meaning we will adjust its power. As we already mentioned, we no longer adjust the exposure triangle from the moment we set it correctly according to the background. This means now the only thing we will do is gradually add or reduce the power of our flash. To simplify it completely, the assistant stays in their place with the flash, and we will only change the power. We started at 1/4 of the power of our external flash, and you can really notice that in the photo, it's extremely overexposed on Jane's face. So we gradually reduced the power until we got to those values where the flash is not so noticeable in the photo, but at the same time, it illuminates the face of our model. This is very important, as we discussed at the beginning, regarding plasticity. If the lightning is extremely noticeable, stronger than the scene, it feels untrustworthy. And at the same time, you significantly reduce the natural plasticity present in the rest of the scene. So it's important that you have to adjust that power and those ratios of lights always in a scene that actually exists. You can't have a stronger flash in the front and pretend to have the sunset in the back. You have to always determine in advance which light is the stronger one and which one is also going to be stronger in the photograph in the result. And therefore, you have to make your artificial lighting a little bit weaker. Generally, in most cases, especially when we have the direction of light acknowledged, we make our artificial lighting significantly weaker. This will be much more evident in the next chapter when we get to the sunset, where the sun will really have the main role, and we'll only see a little bit of the face with the lightning. So it's always up to you, as I said at the beginning of this masterclass. It takes a huge amount of experience, a huge amount of shooting, so take a girlfriend, a friend, join a TFP group or take your wife and go and really try it out in different variations, for now with just one external flash.